and shit. So who here celebrated Valentine's Day? Like celebrated with a date? Okay, losers. I like it. I like losers. I'm on board with that shit. I realized the other day that in none of my dreams has anybody ever told me they loved me, but I've been beaten to death by lead pipes like 100 times. I don't know what the fuck that means. I've blown myself more times in my dreams than people have blown me, because I believe like the tiny dick physics is more realistic than somebody loving me. Because I'm a fucking loser. I hate it. Like, I could have had a date for Valentine's Day. This really happened. I was sitting at the bus waiting to go to the show, and this guy, he's like across the street in his car, and he's like, "Hey, do you need a ride?" And I'm like, "No." And then he drives up the street and turns around. He pulls up in front of the bus stop. He's like, "Hey, you need a ride?" I'm like, "No, not really, man. I'm taking the bus." He pulls into the parking lot behind me, and he gets out, and he's like, "Are you sure you don't need a ride?" And I was like, "Man, nobody's sucking anybody's dicks right here. This is not happening." You know, because fucking fool me once, you know, shame on me. If you've heard me do comedy before, you know that I let a man blow me for a ride home one time. And it was a mistake. It was a mistake. I regret it. I'm poor. Any poor people? I had top ramen for 2 meals the other day, and not like 2 top ramens. I had 1 top ramen twice. I had the noodles for 1 meal. I dipped like a piece of white bread in the broth for the other meal, and that's all I had that day, because I'm a fucking loser. I don't care. I am poor. Like, the nicest shirt I own is held together by weave thread. And that means 2 things. 1, I'm poor, and 2, I have black friends. Which I guess is another indicator that I'm poor. I have black friends, goddamn, settle down. I do. I noticed the other day that there's no black people in the game of Clue. I was like, well, that's fucking racist, right? And I thought maybe there was. Maybe the dude who got murdered was a black dude, because he's the first dude dead, right? It's obviously black dude. No, he's a fucking white dude or a Spaniard or some shit. I was like, maybe there is a black dude in the game of Clue, but nobody knows it because he dies as soon as you open the box. He's just dead so fast. There's no Mexicans in the game of Clue either, and I know why that is. I read the rules. The rules are you can't blame the help, so obviously there's going to be no Mexicans in the game of Clue. I actually do know why there's no black people in the game of Clue, because there would be no game. You know, they just don't investigate black people's murders. You know, like, the cops show up, they're like, black male dead, and then they make a check mark. You know, like counting the days where you get out of prison. That kind of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 kind of fucking check mark. I'm gonna tell a story about the highest I've ever been in my life. I was in Thailand, and this Australian dude was like, "Do you know where to find ecstasy?" And I was like, "Well, I know how to spot a drug dealer, because I have experience in that field, right?" And we're walking down the beach, and there's a bar, and then a gap between buildings, and then a bar, and then there's this Thai kid standing between 2 bars, dancing to both their music. And I'm like, that dude has fucking drugs. I know that much. So I go up to him, and he's like, "Yeah, I got ecstasy." So I get 2 hits of ecstasy. 1 hit for me, 1 hit for the Australian dude. And then I go back to where the Australian dude was. He's not there anymore. So I do what any rational person would do. I eat both hits of ecstasy. I just fucking devour, right? And like 2 minutes later, the Australian dude, he comes up, he's like, "Did you get that ecstasy?" I was like, "Well, yeah, I ate it." He's like, "Well, I want ecstasy." Okay. So I go back, I get 2 more hits of ecstasy. 1 for him and 1 for me, because I'm smart and shit. So I eat my 3rd hit of ecstasy. He's had 1. We go to this bar that sells mushroom shakes, magic mushrooms in a smoothie, whatever. And I've done all these drugs before. I should know better, you know? So I go up there, I slam down a mushroom shake, and it's like 10 minutes after I've eaten 3 hits of ecstasy. I'm like, well, I'm not high yet. I'll have another one. That's a mistake, guys. Don't fucking do that. Long story short, I get so high, I think I came in my pants, but I'm too high to tell. Like, I'm looking down, I'm like, fuck. It feels wet. Oh, fucking everything feels wet. It looks wet. Fucking everything looks wet. And then I realize I'm just standing in public doing this for 5 minutes. I'm like, oh, fuck, man. Now I'm in a pickle. And I make the executive decision to take my beer and just pour it all over myself to hide the evidence. Not from down here, because that makes it look worse, right? From chest height. And that's how I solved that problem. So, fantastic, right? How much they pay? Because this doesn't pay shit. I'm a homeless man. I'm really skinny, too, probably because I don't eat much. Like, my jacket size is the same as, what was I going to say? That's stupid. No, I'll just stand here for a second, don't worry. I'll get it. Oh, yeah, my clothing size is the same as my dick size. It's like a child's large. Like, it might look baggy on an 8-year-old, but it doesn't fit an adult's vagina. Right? Another Thailand story. I was drinking one night, and I would never carry my card around with me because that's like my only access to my money. So I just leave it in the room, pull out like $100 to. That's what I can drink in a night. So I went out and I just drank all my money. I didn't have enough for a taxi back, and so I had to walk back. And like everything's closed. It's fucking middle of the night, and I'm walking. I'm like, oh man, I have to shit. I have to shit really bad. I'm like, no, you can make it, man. It's like 45 minutes. You can make it. And I'm walking. I'm like, oh shit, you gotta shit. Like I had to sit down a few times. And I'm like, okay, you got it. You got it together. I get back to my apartment. And I'm not getting a hotel or anything because I don't give a fuck. I'm a cheap bastard. I'm gonna live with the ties. I don't give a fuck. And the padlocks down there have their keys work differently. Like you can't just pop the lock and pull your key out. You have to pop the lock, and you can't pull your key out until you close the lock again, right? So I open the padlock to the front gate. I'm holding the lock, and this Thai lady, she comes yelling down the street. I don't speak much Thai, but I know she wants me to hold the gate. That's the only reason I'm opening the gate. And she's going, blah, 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 in whatever fucking language. And so I hold the gate, and I'm like, I already fucking made it, right? I'm here now. And as soon as she gets to the gate, my legs start shaking, and I start shitting myself while I'm staring this woman in the eyes, and she's thanking me. She's like, oh, kapu makrap, oh. And I'm like, yeah, sure, yeah, okay. And then I had to walk up 4 flights of stairs shaking turds out of my pants. That was fantastic, right? All right, I'm going to get out of here on that. That was my time. Zach Wiseman.